So Sylvester has this kind of impish quality about him that I always kind of like. He's always so nice. As you can tell, my background has changed on here. Those of you that are watching the video of this, I always had that kind of impish. He's not very big. He's not a very tall man, but he has that quirkiness about him that set him apart from some of the other doctors. But have you ever seen it? I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Doctor Who was I remember as a kid, Colin Baker, not Colin Baker. I've forgotten the name of the other doctor that I was known with Pertwee. What was his name? Not Paul. Because there's been a bunch of doctors.
The original, right? The original
guy.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, we've had a lot of different. John Pertwee. He was actually the third. He was actually the third Doctor. The very first Doctor was William Hartnell, who was the very first one, and then Tom Baker was the other one. Now, the one thing I remember as a kid was being absolutely terrified of these Dalek things. They were, I'm the Doctor. We are the Daleks. I mean, I had nightmares for this thing. Anyway, but it was interesting because it died out. The popularity of the show died out for a while. And when I came to America, Americans didn't really know what it was until a few years back when BBC International aired it, and its popularity took off again. It became absolutely huge. And, now today at a lot of conventions, there are a lot of fans out there to see the doctors as thing would have it. But there's been a female doctor. Jodie Whittaker was a female doctor. Matt Smith, who's a great actor, he was actually the 11th Doctor. They've actually had a lot of doctors. I mean, they've had a lot of them. And Peter Capaldi was another guy who's a fantastic, and Paul McGann. A lot of these guys have gone on to big careers, and they've really sort of were, it was kind of their staple. But the biggest one is David Tennant, who is the 10th Doctor, but he's named as probably the most popular Doctor in the show's history. It's interesting. All these characters are very, very colorful characters in their own way.
Yeah.
And, it'd be interesting. But anyway, let's listen to Colin. Colin had a fabulous little interview with Colin. So we'll be right back after we've had a chat with Colin Baker. I was just saying, I was dragging you screaming and kicking into this interview.
I came willingly.
And you said willingly.
Yes. Because of your charm.
That's what it is. I tend to charm people. I was just telling you also, I just ran into Lizette Anthony, who I worked with on Dark Shadows back in 87, 88. Maybe 89 I think it was. I haven't seen her for years. And we've been here all weekend. And I finally looked at her and I went, oh my God, Lizette. She goes, oh, Adrian.
I did some audio Dark Shadows.
Oh, that's right, you did.
They've redone them on audio, and I played some ancient weird character.
Yeah, how was that? Was that
I loved it, because Dark Shadows,
it's iconic in a sense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, there was two. There was the first one, which was done in the 60s, late 60s, and then there was the one that was, done in when we did it in the 80s, and then they tried doing the film, which kind of didn't do very well.
Yeah.
But
I think mine was related to the 60s one. The one
I think I saw the poster of that.
Yeah.
But you've done work, as I said earlier, you've done about 100 pieces of TV and film, and that's not episodes, that's projects. So within the episodes on top of that, there's even more.
Do you know, I've never counted.
Yeah, but IMDb has.
But I accept your generous assessment
of it.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started?
Well, I did a lot of amateur acting in Manchester, where I lived, which stemmed from doing Gilbert and Sullivan at school. And I was sitting behind somebody who heard me say to my mother, I'd love to be an actor, I'd love to do that. And he turned around and said, I am the president of this dramatic society. Why don't you come along to rehearsals next week? So a year later, I found myself in an amateur production of South Pacific, the Palace Theatre in Manchester, as a result of which I joined lots of other drama groups, loved it, and I was allegedly a law student.
What drew you to acting? I mean, what was the...
Because you're not yourself. You're somebody else.
That's so true. I just spoke to Sylvester about that. Like, we're playing different people.
Yeah. I was shy. I wouldn't speak up in class. And then suddenly, I'm allowed to be rash, noisy, dying, living, shouting, because I'm playing somebody else.
Right.
And it kind of released the inner Colin. And I just loved it. I loved it. And I couldn't bear being a lawyer because all the lawyers I knew were...
What type of stuff did you do when you first started?
I went to drama school.
Yeah. No, but after that, after you'd done...
Okay,
what was your first kind of work?
I'm 26. I leave drama school. My first job was at the Mermaid Theatre in London, a play directed by Sir Bernard Miles. And I loved it, and I was spotted by an agent when I was doing it, and suddenly found myself quite early on in my career, within a year, doing television. And I was cast in a thing called Roads to Freedom, which for some bizarre reason you cannot get copies of because Jean-Paul Sartre's estate, and he wrote it, won't allow this to be shown. It was a BBC 13 or 26 episodes with wonderful people, Michael Bryant, Georgia Brown, Daniel Massey, all sorts of people in it. And I played a rapist. My first television program was...
You played a bad guy, basically.
Yeah, I just raped this girl, and that was basically the whole of my parts. And as a result of that, I got offered more and more unpleasant characters.
So when did that change for you? Because you get all these like unpleasant characters. When did that change?
Well, that right up to the mid-70s, I did a lot of that, and then ending up with The Brothers, in which I played allegedly the most hated man in Britain, Paul Merrily, who was a kind of JR prototype, if you like, evil swine. And then it dried up a bit on television. I did a lot of theatre. And then John Nathan Turner offered me Doctor Who.
So what was that like when you got Doctor?
Well, a great surprise, because I didn't have to audition for it. I played a small part in a Peter Davison episode, and John Nathan Turner said to me, "This character you're playing, do you know what the programme's called?" I said, "Yeah, Doctor Who." He said, "Oh, it's not called your character then." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you're playing it as if you're the most important person on the screen." I said, "Well, he thinks he is." And we had a chat, and I decided I'd do what he said and do a bit less, because he was the producer. But soon after that, Peter said he wanted to go, and John immediately thought that guy who came in and barnstormed, eating the scenery, but in an incredible way, I hope, would be perfect for my Doctor. And I was offered it.
Wow.
And had the best 3 years an actor can have. Really.
What's your favourite memory on that?
Do you know, really and truthfully, my favourite memory is being the guy who dictates the working atmosphere. I've been in so many other people's programmes where there's an ego sitting in the main role, who doesn't speak to the actors who come in, who treats them like the proverbial. And I vowed that would never happen. And every single person who came into that rehearsal room, I went and spoke to, made them aware that it was going to be fun, and that I didn't care if they were good. I wanted them to be good. I wasn't going to cut their lines. I've had that done to me by egos in the past.
One time I did a series called Colby's, and Charlton Heston at the time had this line, because I was jumping from the fourth floor of a building, and I landed like on my feet like a cat. And his line was, "Oh, lucky you're a dancer, because you just landed like that, like a cat." And he was like, "I'm not saying this line." So he looks at Tracy Scoggins and said, "Here, you take the line." And she said, "I had to say the line, because..."
Wow.
Yeah, he just said, "I'm not saying it." He could do that at the time, because he was the lead. But I agree totally with you about that. One of the things I did when I did Highlander, I wanted other people to be good so I could be better. Do you know what I mean? And because if they're good, I'm going to look better.
I've never understood that.
No, I've never understood that.
There's a lot of comics I've worked with on the stage who've tried to cut my lines if they're funny.
It doesn't make sense.
We don't need that line, do we? Or I'll have that line.
Yeah, it
doesn't. I'm not going to name names, but there's one or two quite well-known people.
Well, you can name names. I don't mind. All right. Okay.
Yeah. But people, I mean, I've worked with people who insist that when you're doing a two-shot, they insist that you do your close-up first.
Yes, right, yeah.
And you do your close-up, and they play it a certain way, and then they do theirs, and they play it a
totally
completely different way.
That really...
So you look an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, like whispering to you. So you whisper back, you know.
You're reacting of what
and
they
then
do.
he's talking loudly, and why is he whispering? It's so insecure, some of them, aren't they?
Yeah, no, that is unfortunate. Hopefully...
You were very good in Highlander, I like that.
Oh, thank you.
I did watch it.
Oh, you did?
Actually, I did watch it.
I had the doctor watching me, that was good.
How many series did you do of it?
I did 119 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
good series.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really was.
It was fun.
It was my kind of series. I like that kind of thing.
Do you like action stuff?
Yeah, I love it.
Have you done any yourself?
No.
No?
Look at me.
No, I'm just asking because, I mean, you know, so people have done stunts and people have done stuff, you know, I mean...
I did all my own stunts in Doctor Who.
Right.
Because don't you hate it when you see an actor and then suddenly he's doing this while he's jumping off the cliff or riding a bicycle or whatever he's doing. And I vowed that if I was allowed to, I'd do them all myself. Tied on a trolley, pushed down a hill. I did that.
Did you ever get into any accidents when you did it?
I did once. I was dangling on a chain over apparently a bottomless well. Well, it had a bottom, but it was a long way down. And as I grabbed it, I was being attacked by extras, and one of them pulled me, and my finger got caught between the chain links and dislocated it. You can still see where that happened.
Still does it?
Yeah, things like that. And when I did War and Peace with Anthony Hopkins, which I did in 1971, the extras were told to chase me across this huge set, and as I ran across, my sword caught in the cobbles, and I fell over, and the extras ran over me. They were told
stop.
No. They were told to run from that corner to that corner.
It doesn't matter what's in between.
No. So occasionally those things happen.
Have you ever gotten hurt at all? Did you ever get hurt? Not really. Unlike me.
You did you?
Yeah, a few stitches. You know, just here and there. You know, well, you know, playing. You know, it's like you put your hand in fire, you're going to get burnt in some point.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What's your favourite memory of because you did The Doctor for, I think it was
3 years.
3 years, right? And was that a normal thing to do, like just 3 years for The Doctor? Or
Most Doctors do three. They usually do 3 series, which takes 3 years. But my middle series was cancelled when Michael Gray came to the BBC, having already said he didn't like Doctor Who, thought it was, you know, passé old rubbish. So I'd been contracted for the second series, but he came and cancelled it when he arrived. So I got paid for a year for doing nothing, which was
between what,
nice.
87?
No, that was 1985-6.
85-6, because it was
and
really...
it came back. No, 84-5.
84-5, right, so because it was after that, because I remember going to the United States and Doctor Who, nobody knew who Doctor Who was, it was this, and then the BBC decided to launch the International and put Doctor Who on it, and it started just taking off in the States.
Yeah.
And after
on
that,
PBS.
ever since now, it's just, you know, it's huge now.
But it was extraordinary, because I remember once going over to the States to do a PBS launch, and, you know, where you sit and they're on the phone, people pay money to watch the programme and bid, and the head of Lionheart Films, whose name escapes me, said, hey, Colin, when you go back to London, can you go ask Mike Grade if we can have more Who? Because at the moment we're only getting X and we want Y, and we could sell it, you know, we haven't got enough episodes. And I said, if you think that the actor who is a star of a successful programme, admittedly, has any access to the head of the BBC, and that same head of the BBC will listen to what I say or even care, you're very much mistaken.
Yeah.
And he was very surprised, because in America, if you're the lead actor in the series,
you have a little bit of a say.
They may not like you saying it, but they'll let you.
Yeah.
But I would never have got to Michael Grade's office.
Yeah, the BBC has a different thing on it, doesn't it, than it had. What other favourite thing that you've done? I mean, obviously Doctor Who's part of your...
Well, I did a series called The Brothers, which I mentioned.
Brothers, right.
In the 70s.
Yeah.
And I was voted the most hated person in Britain at the same time.
You're such a nice guy, too.
At the same time that Maggie Thatcher was in power.
Oh, gosh.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was kind of ruthless, but unlike JR, he was a character who was always right, but he just trampled over everybody. And
so you like playing the bad guys, don't
you?
Oh,
I love it. They're the most interesting usually, aren't they?
It's true, actually. Yeah, it is true.
I mean, the difference is Doctor Who, because the Doctor is an interesting character.
Yeah.
But, taking the analogy of Dallas, who's more interesting, JR or Bobby?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. JR, because you don't know what he's going to do next.
No, and Bobby's a nice guy, but that in itself isn't sufficiently interesting to propel a programme.
Right. So what do you think about these cons that we do? I mean, you've done a few of them now, and you've seen the explosion of Doctor Who everywhere now.
Yeah.
So
there's two things going on. One is it extends my ability to work because people pay to come, you get paid.
Right.
So it's a job like many other jobs. But at the same time, it is a privilege actually to have constant access to people who like you. Occasionally you get someone who comes along and says, "Oh, I never liked your Doctor," but that's just funny. But most of the time, today I've had so many people almost in tears because they like what I do. Now think of all the other jobs in the world.
Yeah.
You're a carpenter. You make cupboards. 40 years after you make a cupboard for somebody, someone says, "Oh, that cupboard you made for me 40 years ago, that was a brilliant cupboard." Doesn't happen, does it?
No,
Well,
not really.
Not very often.
Not really, no.
But we get that. And yes, it can be trying sometimes. At the end of a long day when... very often it's funny. I mean, when a fan says to me, "Oh, Mr. Baker, you're my sixth favourite Doctor," and you're demoted in one sentence by two players. That's happened. That has happened. Or a woman comes up to you, grabbed hold of my stomach and said, "You've put on weight since you played the Doctor, haven't you?" And I said, "And you've got a very big bottom." And she said, "What do you mean? How rude." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's the kind of conversation we were having."
And those niceties.
But most people are either very shy.
Yeah.
Or
most people are very good, but there are one or two that come out with things and it kind of stuns you for a second.
Yeah.